Okay, here, and whenever we're here together, something's going on in one of those days.
Yeah, and as you saw in the animation, this isn't just us talking about what the weather's going to be on the weekend. This is a weather-aware day, first one of 2024.
Yeah, let's talk about the specifics of this weather-aware day, something to think about. We've been talking about it all morning. From now all the way up till this evening, about 7 o'clock, it's going to be a situation with high winds and very heavy rainfall, severe storms are possible. There's a whole lot to put in here, Chris.
Yeah, there's too much. Yeah,
it's way too much stuff.
Yeah, that's why you had two segments of weather back to back in the morning, just because literally you have watches, advisories, and potential more watches and warnings later this afternoon.
Yeah, we have flood alerts going on. That's a flood watch all the way through the evening. For most of the area, that's a high wind advisory. Now, in the mountains specifically, that's a warning up there for the people in the high country.
Wind gusts as high as 60 to 65 miles per hour. And the usual suspect here is because the higher you go up, well, there's less friction, so the winds can flow freely. That's why sometimes the top of Grandfather Mountain can have wind gusts well over 100 miles per hour. So I think especially in Avery and Watauga County, we're going to have some of those higher gusts along the Tennessee border especially. That's where you're seeing most of those high wind warnings. The rest of us, gusts up to 50 looks to be the norm, but it's just going to be rocking and rolling all day long.
Heavy rain, 2 to 4 inches of rainfall. I think west, southwest, it get even more than that. Strong storms, definitely a possibility. We've seen some big storms. You can see the radar down around Atlanta. They've had heavy rain, strong storms, even had a tornado warning a little bit earlier today.
Oh, that's crazy.
So that, sometimes what happens in Atlanta, it eventually ends up in our area, almost up the Interstate 85 corridor. So we got the heavy rain out there. That's those areas, southwest of Atlanta has flood warnings in effect down there right now. So 3 to 5 inches of rain. That's coming at one time, 3 to 5 inches of rain. That's just way excessive amount of rainfall. 2 to 4 inches for us.
2 to 4 inches. And some areas, really from Charlotte down to the southeast, might have more of that 1 to 2 inch range. But those locations, such as Monroe down to Cheraw, the less rain, the more unstable it's going to become. So it's those areas that have even better chance for a stronger thunderstorm. But I will say, Larry, that some of these totals have come down. Now, this is also, we've factored in some of the rain that we've already seen this morning, but it's not as frightening. I remember at this point yesterday, we were seeing some in the 5s, so luckily that has come down.
And maybe it will come down even more, though, because we've certainly had enough rainfall. The drought is busted for sure. And we take a look, we have the severe storms, power outage, potential high winds, flood threat. All of those are in there really between, say, noon and early evening hours, wouldn't you think?
That wind advisory starts at 10 a.m., so I think that pretty much the afternoon is going to be the peak. But notice those red bars go all the way to that 10 o'clock hour. I would not be surprised if you still have some snapping branches, some toppled trees, even after that 10 o'clock expiration. That's why the mountains have actually extended their advisories for wind, because this is going to be an ongoing event behind the low, behind the cold front that's moving to the northeast. So it's windy through the overnight as well, just not as bad as what we have in the afternoon.
We hope everybody's made preparations, got the batteries and charged at the phones and everything like that, because there is definitely a potential for power outages across the area today. So, when you have sustained constant winds, 25 to 35 miles an hour, that's constant winds. That can cause damage. And then you get gusts 45 to 50. That certainly could cause some problems.
Picture this as pretty much a winter tropical storm, a low-end tropical storm, because tropical storm winds are 39 plus, and that's pretty much what we're going to have. We're 39 to 73 technically, and we're right in the heart of that. So you're going to have constant tropical storm gusts throughout the day, and you know what happens during a tropical storm? A lot of branches down all of the places, power outages, even some minor structural damage, because once you do get up to that 50 mile per hour range, that's usually classified as a strong thunderstorm when there's a thunderstorm.
Right. Yes.
58 would classify as severe thunderstorm warning. And Larry has 45 to 55 here. Along that front, we could have some spots that will have over 60. It just depends if we indeed get those severe thunderstorm warnings or not.
I took just like one time frame, 2 p.m., and these are all estimated, but you can see the consensus is some winds gusting well over 50 miles an hour in some locations early afternoon today.
Yeah, and think about this too, is oftentimes when you have like a thunderstorm during the summertime, you might have these pop up for a few seconds, maybe a minute max. We're looking at several hours of gusts over 40.
Yeah.
So that really wears down on some trees that, hey, start those cracks that you hear build into bigger cracks, and that's how oftentimes we have those bigger limbs that come down. So with the persistent gusts throughout the day, that's why we're so weather weather aware, and that's why you had that power meter of not a good status for today.
You got the loosened soil, so those trees can certainly come down. A lot of the older trees in our area certainly would affect those, so we can see actually some tree falls as well. We'll take a look at the satellite radar right now. You can see the heaviest rain so far has really been west and southwest of here, and it's almost along the I-85 corridor that we're seeing the heaviest rain. We'll kind of pull the radar back and show you. See that line of storms south of Atlanta, Georgia? That may, as it moves, it's moving northeast at about 50 miles per hour. So if you track that would put it just a little bit south of Charlotte. And Chris was talking a minute ago about the area southeast of here towards maybe Monroe, all the way down towards Chesterfield County in South Carolina, over towards areas east of here. That's where there may be that area that has a little more conduciveness to strong storms. And you can see the arrow that Chris is adding right there. If you just follow that line and just go northeast, follow it northeast, you take that path not too far from Charlotte, just southeast of here. Certainly would be the area, right?
Yeah, and again, you kind of said I-85. That would be pretty much like I-85 closely. But I was also just drawing along there that you can see these little squiggles, and that is a classic QLCS. So you have that little bow. That's where you have those stronger winds that are driving forward there. So that is why I think the biggest issue is going to be south of that first arrow that I drew. And you're also going to see that by some of our severe weather outlooks as well. So that's why Atlanta had a tornado warning not too long ago, Larry, because those little kinks in the line moved through.
And we're going to be watching this very closely throughout the afternoon. I think that it's really as we head from the noon time to about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. That's really the time frame of some of the strong storms out there. But it's persistent rain, high winds, all that comes together to cause some severe weather problems out here.
How often do you see 100%?
Not very often. And the other thing is you don't see 63 degrees in January. So you get mild temperatures, all the ingredients coming together to create the situation. Calmer weather tomorrow and Thursday. Friday we got some rain in the forecast, not to the extent, severe weather, not to the extent of what we're seeing, and then much colder for the weekend, but at least dry.
Yeah, it's disappointing that we don't get to enjoy the lower to the mid-60s.
Oh, I know. It has to come with with a weather aware day, and then you have some explanations about the situation that we're dealing with.
Exactly.
Right now.
So what we like to do here. We always like to raise that weather IQ. So what's going on? Why is this happening? Well, this is a classic what's called a mid-latitude cyclone. That's when you have a low attached to a cold front and a warm front. Now, what's interesting is we showed you what was happening in Atlanta. Notice what's moving through. It's a cold front. So it's right in what's also known as the triple point, where you have that occluded front. That's that purple guy right there. That's where you're having the worst weather. So it's going to be underneath that warm front that we're going to have the worst of the activity. And if I bring up this map, for instance, notice down to the southeast, what do you know? It's that red, and it's going to be right under that warm front that we're really going to see all that. So I'm going to backtrack here, showing you that front again. That front is what's really going to bring in the rain. Actually, let's move on to this one. This is what you're expecting the Futurecast to do. So as Larry had mentioned, most of that rain is going to be northwest of Charlotte. Charlotte, of course, still seeing light to moderate rain showers most of the time. But it's the cold front that arrives along this that we have the best chance for the gustiest winds, the heaviest rain, and then also that severe weather potential. Now, let's stop it here. This is where you're going to start to see the little kinks along the line. So the leading edge can allow for some gustier winds. You're seeing it right here south of Roanoke. You're seeing it slightly bowing here in Charlotte. This, again, is just estimates that could happen, but then you see a lot more squiggles down here. So I think it's definitely South Carolina in the red that's going to be most impacted. The time right here is about 2 o'clock. So it's those areas that don't see most of the rain. Notice the red. Areas in red don't have all that rain, so it's not the rain-cooled air that's stabilizing thing. Now, since Charlotte doesn't have the heavier bands that are the northwest, still has a shot when that front rolls through. It's also timing as well. When that front is moving through mid to late afternoon, it gets a lot more boisterous. So that's why we're seeing a lot more activity down there. So I'm not saying Charlotte's not going to see this activity. It's just a little bit less than some surrounding areas.
I think one thing, we will still see the high winds.
For sure,
it's interesting. interesting because it's two separate situations where you have the severe weather threat, and then we're going to get the maximum winds regardless of that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. There will be a noticeable change, and Larry was showing that earlier. I have so many graphics in here. Everything's all jumbled right now. There we go. Futurecast winds. So check it out. So when that is moving through, you're going to notice the jump here. Check it out. Let's go here. There it is. All right, so this is when the cold front moving through. Look at how strong the winds are, and you're also going to notice the wind shift by some of those arrows. You're seeing 50s to 40s, but then all those 50s slide their way further off towards the east. But you can see those moving arrows in the front is visibly moving through. But that's what makes this setup so unique, Larry, is that it's usually that severe weather that is number one on the list, but really it's the widespread winds, the environment, the rain that could topple down trees because it saturates the soil. They come down. That just sets us up for just a perfect scenario for power outages. Fingers crossed that doesn't come to fruition, but it's going to get a lot worse from when you're watching us right now live.
The situation we're in today, I can't remember the last time. It's been a number of years ago where there have been so many cancellations because of severe storm threat. Now, we've had winter weather situations when they've canceled school and businesses have delayed going in, but it's been a long time since we've seen this widespread the amount of cancellations because of the potential for the strong storms and the high winds that we're going to see today. School buses don't function well with the high winds. They're the high-profile vehicles, so they can topple over. That's why they cancel school in many of these spots. So we're talking about some of these winds well over 50 miles an hour.
Yeah, and that's why I want to show this. It's Sir, I think his name is Francis Beaufort, and he came up with this
scale.
Yeah, the Beaufort scale is just kind of a layman's terms of taking winds and kind of categorizing what you see. Most of the day, we're going to have sustained winds up to 30, so that's a strong wind. That means that the umbrellas,
yes, don't use them.
This is a fake advisory, but we have a broken umbrella advisory.
I was going to say, maybe pouring down rain, but it's one day that you do not want to use that with those high winds like that.
Exactly, yeah. So we might have some broken umbrellas, but a lot of the times, Larry, as you were mentioning, we're going to have near gale to severe gale force winds. So that means it could be anywhere from trash cans rolling down the road, twigs small to large branches breaking, even could impede walking at times. But once you get to that severe gale range, you're talking about some slight structural damage. And then certainly with those weakened trees, we're going to see this not just for an hour, not for 2 hours, but for several hours through the day. That's why today is the day to be weather aware. And even through this evening, yes, the rain may stop, but you still have a chance for down trees, down limbs, and loss of power.
It really is a day just to think before you're even outside. If you're driving today, please be careful and keep the kids inside because it is a dangerous situation. We'll be here throughout the day. Of course, Brad and the gang will be here, and KJ will be here this afternoon. The whole weather team will be here in case there's any other severe weather threats. So just be weather aware. That's what it's all about. And we'll see you back here tomorrow morning on WCNC Charlotte.
Stay safe.